Welcome back to the Light Up Your Life podcast, where we share inspiring conversations to help you grow, heal, and create a life that you love. I'm your host, Samantha Peters, and today I'm joined by Kute Blackson. He's a transformational teacher, inspirational speaker, and best-selling author of The Magic of Surrender. Kute has inspired people around the world to live authentically, to discover their purpose, and experience greater freedom and fulfillment. Welcome to the Light Up Your Life podcast. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Great to be here.
Yes. All right. So, for those who may be just hearing your story for the first time, can you tell us a little bit about your journey and then what led you to the work you do today?
Wow. Um, my entire life has been about transformation, healing in some way. Like my first memories as a young boy was I remember seeing a crippled woman crawling on the floor. And I was a chubby kid around 7 years old, and I was lost in the crowd. And this crippled woman literally picks up the gravel, the sand that this man walked on, wipes it on her face and stands up. And you could call that a miracle. And so week after week, I grew up seeing miracles. I grew up seeing blind people see and deaf people hear and people stand up out of wheelchairs. The same man whose gravel she picked up will look at a person in a wheelchair and say, "Why are you in this wheelchair? Stand up." And he put his hands on them and they'd be healed. And somebody would come in with crutches and he'd say, "Throw the crutches away," put his hands on them and they'd be healed. And so this man was my father. And so I grew up in this environment of possibility, environment of just infinite possibilities. Everything was possible. Nothing was not possible. But for me as a young boy, I didn't think anything special of it. I just thought it was normal. I thought this was everyone's experience. So I didn't question it. You know, when you're a
Mhm.
kid, you're just available. And so as a young boy, my father's from Ghana, my mother's Japanese. I grew up going to church on a Sunday with the whole family, 5,000 people in the audience at my father's height. There were probably 1 million followers in his organization in Africa. So I grew up going to church, grew up meditating with my mother. And I always felt this weird sense, a destiny, and maybe those listening might relate to it. I always felt this sense that I was put on the planet for something, for a purpose that was bigger than myself, for a reason, for a calling. And I felt this calling inside of me at a very young age. I didn't know what it was leading me to. I didn't know what I was being guided to. I didn't know what I was put here to do, but I just felt this impulse inside of me. And so when I was age 8, I was thrown into the audience one day in my father's church. My father said, "Speak." And so my speaking career began at age 8. And I started speaking every Sunday, every other Sunday, once a month, every 6 weeks, just depending. Whenever my father would throw me on the stage and say, "Speak," and I remember something would happen. There was like a channel opened up and just words started flowing out of my mouth that I could not explain. It wasn't like I practiced or prepared for this. It just started happening to me. And so when I was 14, I was ordained as a minister, and my father ordained me and announced to the congregation, "My son is taking over my organization." And at the young age of 14, I was designated the successor of my father's legacy, of my father's churches, his spiritual organization. And he was a very mystical man. You know, he went to India in the 60s and had an enlightenment experience, an awakening. So even though he had these churches, he came back very spiritual, very metaphysical, very in tune with the cosmos and the mysteries of life and the Eastern mysticism as well. And so I was steeped in this tradition at age 8. After I had this kind of experience being on stage, I became obsessed with just trying to understand, like, what the hell is going on? I don't understand. I'm having these experiences. I get on stage and just I start channeling this stuff. And, no one taught me any of this. And so I would sneak into my father's office, and there were literally 1,000 books on the bookshelf, everyone from uh, Krishnamurti to Osho to Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the Eastern mystics, to Madame Blavatsky, the Western mystics, to Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay and Chopra. And so
Yes.
I began becoming obsessed with reading and understanding. So 8 to 18, I probably read 800 books just trying to understand myself and life and the meaning and the purpose of all of this. But when I was 14, my life changed and I saw my entire life being scripted for me. My life was basically being written for me by someone else. And I knew that the path that my father set was not my life. I knew that this path that was being decided for me, it wasn't my true destiny. But I think, like many of us, I was too afraid to speak my
Mhm.
truth. My fear was if I really dared to be who I am, if I really dared to speak my truth, if I really dared to express my authentic self, I would be abandoned, I'd be alone, I'd be outcast, I'd lose my father's love. And like many of us, I allowed fear to hijack my voice and my freedom. And so for 4 years, I said nothing. I tried to fit myself into a kind of box of being who I thought that my father wanted me to be, my mother wanted me to be, the world wanted me to be, and became miserable in that process. And there was a real turning point in my life where when I was around 17 and a half, I made a decision. I decided I wasn't going to go to university. Everyone went crazy. They thought I lost my mind. Kid, you're going to be homeless. You're going to
Mhm.
be a loser for the rest of your life. And I just knew that my soul was guiding me. I just knew that I was being called. Many times when your soul guides you, it does not make sense to your logic. It doesn't make sense to your mind. It doesn't make sense to your personality because the guidance of your soul arises from a deeper dimension than your conscious mind, than your ego. It arises from the unconditioned dimension of your being. It's arising from source. And so I felt this impulse, go to America. Why America? Because all of the authors I read about, Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, Chopra, Tony Robbins, all these people, they lived in freaking America. They lived in Southern California. And so there was this deep impulse that said, go to America, go to Los Angeles, go to Southern California, go into this field. And it made no sense because I didn't know anyone. I had no money, I had no support, no education, no contacts. But what I found is when your soul guides you, listen. And if you listen, and this is for everyone listening, maybe you're feeling guided to launch a book. Maybe you're feeling guided to move. Maybe you're feeling guided to end a relationship. Maybe you're feeling guided to do something you've never done and you don't know how you're going to get there. What I have found is when you listen to your soul, and you follow your soul and you're obedient to your soul and you don't question, if you listen, you will always end up in the right place at the right time with the right people doing the right thing, even though the path that you take may not be the one that you most expect. And so I made a decision. And the decision was to renounce the church, to retire from the ministry at 17, have the conversation with my father, which felt like a death, for a
I
young
bet.
kid.
Yes.
And it was terrifying and it was scary. And I'll never forget the day I had the conversation at 17 and a half. I felt like I was going to be buried in the ground. And it was the most scary moment of my life. Sometimes people think that when you find your purpose in life, I think some of the self-help books sell this romantic image that when you find your purpose in life, it's like the angels appear and life gets easy.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes when you find your true purpose, that's when things get really challenging. That's when you have to face the challenges, the soul tests that
Mhm.
forge you, that force you to develop the inner fortitude and persistence and resilience and muscle that develops the soul force so that you can become the person that is capable of fulfilling the dream that you've been given. So had the conversation with my father, left everything behind. We didn't speak for 2 years. At the ripe old age of 18, long story short, I ended up winning, literally winning a green card in the green card lottery. And that's what enabled me to come to America with 2 suitcases, one suitcase full of clothes, one suitcase full of self-help books, $800 in my pocket, landed in the US, Los Angeles, and began my journey when I found mentors and teachers and many folks. And that began my journey.
Wow, that's such a beautiful story. And I feel like you've lived so many lives. I mean, taking over the church at that young age, I can't even imagine. But I really want to highlight 2 points that you made where you said you have to follow your intuition, you have to follow your soul's purpose because that's going to give you so much fulfillment. And I think that leads perfectly into your book that's called The Magic of Surrender. What does surrender truly mean to you, guiding you into your soul's purpose? Because I feel like a lot of people misunderstand what it is.
Yeah, it's funny because, The Magic of Surrender, which is a book that I love so much, launched a couple of years ago. This wasn't the book I wanted to write. This wasn't the book I planned to write. I resisted writing this book. I'll never forget when I was thinking about the book I wanted to write. And I think it goes for life. We have all of these plans and we have all of these ideas and we have all of these, I got all these formulas for life. But, often life doesn't work out how we expect. And if you look at many of the best things that happen in our life, They are things that we did not plan. They are things that we could not have planned. Or I'm going to, at 6 p.m. on Thursday, I'm going to walk into this local coffee shop and meet my soulmate. It doesn't happen that way. It just, life happens in the process of you following what is true, following what is most authentic. And so I tried to write every other book other than this book. I remember I had a poster board on my a whiteboard, and I had all of these amazing ideas because my first book was a bestseller. And so I thought, I'm gonna write a mega bestseller, like The Secret. Like it's gonna be this book, and I'm gonna pick all of these titles, and what does my publisher want, and what does my audience want. And the truth is, I had some very clever ideas, but none of those felt true. None of those felt authentic. None of those felt aligned. None of those felt real. It just felt, to be honest, like a kind of a clever strategy more than anything. And I remember looking at this whiteboard and I saw a ton of words, amazing titles, but I saw this word surrender, and I had this oh shit moment. I'm like, oh, that's the book. I felt the energy of that. And so I had to surrender to the book about surrender, not the book I wanted to write, but the book that was seeking to be written. This book had a soul of its own. This book had an energy of its own. And I think if we're truly in tune with life, rather than trying to force our will onto life, we stop becoming in tune with the rhythm of life, in tune with the flow of life. And I think when we're truly in tune with the rhythm and the flow of life, life unfolds, manifestation happens because we're not in the way. And so I surrendered to the book about surrender, and boom, everything unfolded. And so I think in our culture today, there is this misconception that surrender is weak, that surrender is passive, that surrender is giving up. That if you surrender, you won't manifest your goals, dreams, and desires. If you surrender, you're going to get left behind. If you surrender, you're going to be a doormat. If you surrender, people are going to laugh at you. If you surrender, you're going to get less in life. You're going to get less. This idea of what you want, it's not going to happen. You're going to be disappointed, left empty-handed. And I'm actually saying no. If you truly understand the real meaning of true, authentic surrender, which we'll get into, what if you didn't get less, or what if you got more? More, maybe not what you thought. Like, we have this idea and my goals are going to be like this, and you go to the goal setting workshop and then you learn the formula, and it's like, okay, I'm going to make life fit this idea, and so we have all of these ideas, but often life is what happens in the process of life happens in the midst of our ideas, right? And so surrender is the real secret to manifestation. The real secret. Surrender is the password to freedom. Surrender is the real key to true greatness. And so it is a letting go of control. Yes, I would say it's a letting go of the illusion that we were even in control in the first place, by the way. It's a letting go of who you think you should be, because we all have these ideas of who we think we should be based on what our parents told us, and religion told us, and culture told us, and school told us, and education told us, and your grandmother told you, and ancestors told you. And, we have these ideas of who we think we should be based on our pain, based on our traumas, based on our hurt, all of that stuff. So it's a letting go of who you think you should be. It's a letting go of how you think your life should look. Well, I should be like this, and I should be like this, and based on this person, based on when I look around on social media, it's letting go of all of that. And it is it's when you take the limitations off of life. You take the limitations off of life and you allow yourself to become available. You allow yourself to become completely open, available, receptive to receiving the highest unfolding for your life and your destiny. The challenge is, and even, I'll be honest, even and I read, 800 self-help books by the time I was 18, and even a lot of the self-help books, as great as they are, it's an ego-based model of manifestation. And I'll challenge it. I call it goal setting, right? You got to know what you want. You got to know what you want. The challenge is this. Yes, it's helpful to know what you want, but you might manifest everything that you thought you wanted, only to realize that what you thought you wanted was not what you really wanted. It was just what you're based on who you thought you were, right? And if if you weren't loved as a child, if you were bullied as a child, and then you felt not enough, then you might think, oh, me being famous and me having a Lamborghini and me having a big house, that's going to finally make me enough. And so you achieve it only to realize the thing I'm trying to manifest is not true. It's not authentic, right? So the old paradigm of living and the old paradigm of manifesting, I say, is limited, because it's the ego-based model. When you are creating life from the ego, which is the conditioned sense of self that we identify ourselves to be, which is pre-programmed by our childhood and conditioning and ancestors and parents, right? When we're identified with our ego, we're not able to see. We are basically limited. And when you are able to see the entire spectrum and the entire viewpoint and perspective of the totality of what is seeking to happen. And so you might try to manifest like, I want a peanut. Damn it, I want a peanut. Give me a peanut, Kute. Give me a peanut, Samantha. Give me a peanut. God, I want a peanut. And you visualize the peanut and you feel the peanut and you hustle and you're so attached to the peanut, not realizing that perhaps the universe is trying to give you a damn peanut factory. The universe is trying to give you a peanut farm, but your vision is limited by the limited perspective of your ego, that you're not even open to the bigness of what life is seeking to unfold. No. This person I'm going to make this person my soulmate. It's like, well, you can. And how many of us, we've tried to force things. So when you're living out of alignment, or should we say non-surrender, you're trying to force life. You're trying to push life. You're trying to make something that it really isn't. And making something that is not doesn't make it so. So true surrender is different. It's asking a different question. The question is not, what do I want? The limited sense of I that we've been conditioned to be, because we're so conditioned to believe we are this mind and this body, and we've been conditioned to forget that we are infinite beings. We are pure consciousness, infinite beings, not limited to this three-dimensional avatar, this three-dimensional spacesuit. And so when we truly open to the true essence of who we are as infinite beings, then why limit your life to a peanut? Why limit your life? And so I call it soul setting. Soul setting is when you ask a different question. And the question becomes, what is it that life is seeking to manifest through me? What is it that life is seeking to express through me? What is the deepest impulse of what my soul is seeking to create and manifest and unfold, and allowing yourself to be receptive to the unlimitedness of life? And when you feel that, sense that, then you can align your personality and your ego and your goals and your marketing and your planning and your strategy with what is most authentic and what is most true. So it's not like you just want to be clear. Surrender is not just sit there and do nothing. No, surrender is you feel and you open to what is most true without limitations, and you're available to the bigness of what life is seeking to unfold, and you allow that vision to emerge that may not be what you thought. The person you think is your soulmate may not be your soulmate. The vision that you think is your vision may not be your vision. It might be way bigger than that. Look at Mandela. Look at Gandhi. Gandhi was a lawyer, a successful lawyer, but had he stayed a lawyer and not surrendered to the bigness of the next level of the vision that was seeking to happen through him, he would have just been a successful lawyer that nobody would know about. And so I would say for each of us, the next level of your life requires the next level of you, which requires that you let go of everything and everyone that is no longer in alignment. The challenge is, most of us, we hold on to what is not in alignment, who is not in alignment, because it feels familiar, because it's comfortable. And so surrender is an availability. Surrender is an openness. Surrender is when you allow life to lead you. You allow life has been here. You and I, we're here at the best 150 years, maybe with technology now we'll live to 250, right? Maybe 300. Okay, let's go. We live 500 years. But life has been around for billions and billions and billions of years. And I say that life has its own intelligence, that intelligence that is beating your heart, that intelligence that is breathing you right now, that intelligence that is digesting your food, that intelligence that is synchronizing trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of cells inside of you just to be able to take a deep breath. That is the same intelligence, I believe, that is functioning existence, functioning life. And I think when we can truly open to that intelligence that we are a part of and surrender, truly, that's when the magic happens. If you look at anyone great, Jesus, Buddha, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, Bruce Lee, Muhammad Ali, I mean, you name it, at some point, they all surrendered themselves to the next level of that vision, to life. They transcended their human limitations. And that's when life began to manifest through them. That's when they were no longer, oh, I'm going to manifest. That's when life itself, because they were open and available, life began to manifest through them and miracles happened. And so that's why I call the book The Magic of Surrender, not the power, the magic. Magic is that which is beyond your mind's capacity to even imagine what is possible. I'm saying it's better than you can imagine. It's better than you can goal set. It's better than you can think. And that we all want the magic. But if you want magic, you got to surrender. And the degree of magic you get to experience in your life is in direct proportion to the degree of your surrender. But few of us want to surrender. We want to hold on to who we were. We want to hold on to what was. And so this is why I say surrender is the password. When you truly surrender, you are not creating with your mind or your personality or your ego. And the mind, the personality, and the ego is rooted and limited to past experience. So when you create from the past, you end up creating more of the past in your present and in your future. But when you truly surrender and you let go, then your manifestation is arising from a deeper dimension of you. So your future is not limited to what you've experienced in the past. So surrender for me is the real secret to life.
That was such a beautiful response. I completely am in alignment with what you are talking about surrender. And I always love to say it's this or something better all the time. I'm like, I have no idea what magical thing could happen to me today. And I'm completely open to it. And I feel like the more you surrender, the more magical your life is and it appears to be. So I agree with you.
I want to just clarify for folks too is I want to make clear that surrender doesn't mean just sitting there and doing nothing. Because some folks, who are driven, right, and listening, you just sit there and just do nothing. No, you feel what is most true, what is most aligned, and then you commit to that. You commit to that fully, and then you go all in, which might mean you work 24 hours, which might mean you go 12-hour shifts, which might mean you give everything. You might work harder than you've ever worked, but you're working in alignment with what is true. But when you take action with full commitment, with no attachment. You let go of the attachment to the outcome. You let go of the attachment to the result. Then you can stay open. So then you take the action and then life gives you feedback. And because you're not attached, then you're open to allowing life to course correct and show you. But it's when we get attached to the outcome of how we think it should be, that we're no longer available. We're no longer surrendered. We're trying to control everything in life. And so I think part of the reason why surrender is difficult, well, I should phrase it this way, why it seems difficult, because I'm actually going to propose to everyone that surrender is the most natural thing for us. We've just been conditioned out of surrendering. Surrendering is our natural state. You look at a child is surrendered. They're just flowing. They're just accepting what's arising. They cry when they cry. They poop when they poop. They laugh when they laugh. Then they're over it, They're just going with the flow. The child will dance and sing, and it's just whatever's happening is happening until we start getting conditioned, right? And so what resists surrender is the ego. And the ego is the perceived sense of what we have mistakenly identified and believe ourselves to be. And the ego is made up of thoughts, emotions, memories, beliefs that we identify as me. I am this, I am that. And so the degree to which we have identified ourselves as this thing, let's call it ego. Ego is not even a thing. Ego is a process of identification. Kute, Samantha, John, Kevin, Pete, Donald, Susie, whatever, and everything that comes with that idea of who you are based on your past experiences, that process of identification is what ego is. Like a bicycle is a thing. Pedaling is a process. Ego identification is a process. So when you realize that ego is not even real, then you also start understanding that this idea of who you are is not even a real thing. It's not even a real thing. So the ego gets created, it just in a quick condensed way. Here we are born these infinite beings. As children, we incarnate into this human experience. We are these infinite beings of light. We don't have self-consciousness. We're not afraid. We hug, we laugh, we cry, we jump on the table naked, and we're not worried like, can I sing? Do I look fat? We're just free. No ego, no self-consciousness. But then we meet our parents, and God bless them. Our parents, they're just doing the best that they know how to do based on their childhood and their pain and their traumas and their upbringing. So we're all born into a preset pattern of, shall we say, dysfunction, conditioning, pain, trauma. Maybe dad is crazy. Maybe mom's an alcoholic. Maybe dad left mom. Maybe mom is screaming at dad. And so two things happen in terms of how ego gets formed. And I think this helps us when we talk about surrender. The first thing is maybe they were great people, but they just didn't know how to meet your emotional needs. And that was painful. So first thing is we learn, often unconsciously, all sorts of strategies to shut down, disconnect, not feel. So, oh, that's too painful to feel like mom and dad are fighting all the time, or they're not giving me attention, and I'm not having my emotional needs met. That hurts. So we shut down, disconnect, not feel. We suppress, we close our hearts. We start creating survival strategies and mechanisms to not feel the pain. We also then start developing a way of being, a role, a mask, a persona. Who do I need to be in order to get love, validation, and approval from mom, from dad? Oh, for me, growing up in the church, I need to be the good boy, the perfect son, the caretaker, the responsible one, the independent one. And it's like, oh, cool, you're so amazing. You take care of everyone. I'm freaking 13. You're taking care of the world. You're so intelligent. And so I became the perfect son, the responsible one. And so all of us, we start developing a role, a mask, and a persona. We start contorting ourselves into the shape to avoid pain and become who we think we need to be to get love, validation, and approval. And we contort ourselves to become this person that we think is who we are. I'm just shy, Samantha. I'm just shy, Kute. I'm just shy. I'm just independent. So the version of ourselves that we end up becoming that gets reinforced by life and people, society, is not who we really are. It's just who we've been conditioned to be to avoid pain and get love. And that is the ego, the degree to which we're identified with that version of ourselves that helped us function and survive, but now limits us as adults, is not who we really are. It's just a reaction to what's happened. And the degree to which we are conditioned and identified is the degree to which we are not free. The degree to which we're conditioned and identified is the degree to which we don't have the true free will. So now we're wrapped up in a prison of our personality, ego, and we believe ourselves to be that. The job of the ego is to protect you from getting hurt. The job of the ego is to reinforce its existence. So now when we say, well, surrender, for the ego, which is your perceived sense of who you believe yourself to be, surrender and letting go feels like a death. Because we've been so conditioned to hold on tightly. But the truth is, to let go, for those that didn't say just drop the pen, like that's the easiest thing. But we've been so conditioned to hold on to a version of ourselves that is not necessarily who we are, that holding on, self-protective heart armor, defense mechanism starts feeling natural. And so when we believe ourselves to be that, then surrender feels like a death. And that's the scary thing. And that's why we often resist surrender, because letting go feels like the unknown. holding
Mhm.
on, and control feels like the familiar. And so, because the job of the ego is to protect you from getting hurt and to reinforce its existence, the fear of surrender is the unknown. And so the misconception is, if I can, because it felt out of control, feeling helpless, because it felt out of control, mom and dad screaming or whatever was going on, if I can control everything, if I can be in control and know and control how you see me and control my emotions, and if I can be in control, then I won't get hurt. And so for the ego, the perceived sense of who we think we are, surrender feels scary. So it's not that surrender is scary, it's our natural state. It just feels scary because we've been conditioned. But when you can realize that the conditioned ego sense of self that you believe yourself to be is not who you really are,
Mhm.
is just a conditioning, then you can see that whatever releases and whatever dies is not you. And there's another level of freedom that opens up. And so then you can learn how to hold yourself and how to meet yourself with love and
Mhm.
compassion, because sometimes the surrender can feel a bit scary. So if you realize that the ego meant well, it had a beautiful intention, at age 5 and at age 8, and it learned to shut down, disconnect, not feel, do all of these defense
Mhm.
mechanisms, not because it was resisting or bad, it's just trying to protect you. And so now, as you surrender, to not judge yourself, to not even force yourself to let go, but to actually realize the purpose of the ego and not fight it, not see it as an enemy, not see it as, why are you not surrendering, but actually learn how to meet that often scared part of you with love and compassion. Then the ego can relax, and then more and more surrender can happen.
Yes, I think that's beautiful. I had to do all of those steps that you were talking about, like unlearning my past, really
Yes.
having deep introspection of, okay, these are the coping mechanisms that helped me when I was younger
Yeah.
to feel safe, but they're not helping me as an adult. And it really is letting go of everything and people's perception of you, who the world told you you should be, and then really coming back to yourself and realizing, okay, what do I want my life to look like? And I had to go through all of those steps. And I will tell you, I'm at a place now of surrender. And it feels so much more peaceful because I'm not just doing it alone, right? I believe in God and I believe in a
Yes.
higher purpose. And if He's the one guiding you, then everything is always working out for your good. So I loved how you
Everything.
described that. And can you share for our audience? I know you talked about picking up and moving to California, but was there another pivotal moment in your life where surrendering just changed everything for you?
Wow, there have been so many. I'll give you. Let me speak to that moment in California when I had the conversation before I moved. When I had the conversation, I'm 17 and a half. I blew up my life. I told my father, I'm not taking over. He stopped speaking to me for 2 years. I knew in my heart that I was following the right path. Not because I had anything against my dad or the church. I just felt like I had a different path. And I knew in my heart that the path I was being guided to take was the ordained, destined path for me. I had no proof. I had no idea where I was going. I had no evidence in the physical world. I was terrified. And I remember saying a prayer one day in the library, and I said, God, if what I feel is true, and I feel it's true. I'm surrendered. I'm being obedient. Then show me. And I kid you not, within days, someone comes up to me in the library, hands me a magazine called The Economist. No idea why. I never read this thing before. I look in the back. I felt chills. I look in the back of this magazine. It says the American government is giving away 55,000 green cards in the green card lottery. And that's when I knew, I felt the whole thing in my body. And that's when I knew, like, I'm going to win this thing, you know?
Yeah.
And so I enter through there was a law firm. So I sent a message to the law firm and I enter, paid my fee. and I entered the green card lottery. I wasn't even sure, is this real? Is this fake? I had no idea, but I felt I was going to win. And I'm visualizing and I'm meditating and I'm praying. And I even cut out a piece of paper, wrote my name on it, wrote green card, colored it green, didn't realize that
I
green
love
cards
it.
were pink, by the way. And I'm doing my visualizations, every day, and my manifestation practices, seeing myself there. And I'm told that unless I hear back by September the 18th, move on with your life. They don't tell you haven't won. So every day I'm running to the mailbox. This is in London, by the way. And I'm running to the mailbox fully expecting to win. Nothing. September the 18th rolls around. Nothing. I'm pissed off. I'm mad at God. I'm having one of those screaming at God sessions, in the middle of the night. And I basically told my mother, I'm going to America, green card or no green card. I'm going. She said, well, you can't go illegally. I'm like, I'm going. And so I packed my bags that night. That night, I literally get a phone call. My mother picks up the phone. It's an American voice on the other line, the law firm. She hands me the phone. Mr. Blackson? I said, yes. He says, this is so-and-so from so-and-so law firm. We applied for your green card. We just got notification today that you've won a green card. And I went crazy. I couldn't, but I was like, what? Like millions of people apply, 50,000 people get picked. And out of those 50,000, only, I don't know, 10,000 people actually get the green card, if that. And I'm going crazy. I'm jumping in my house, with my mother. We're celebrating. And in that moment, I heard a voice. And the voice says, Kid, why are you acting so surprised? You knew you were going to win. And that moment, there was a miraculous moment that I've never forgotten, that I realized I'm being guided. And I feel as though all of us, whether we can see it or not, we are all being guided by an intelligence, God, the intelligence, higher power, whatever people choose to believe. But I think we are all guided. But many times we can't see it. And life is kind of like a movie, Often we all want to know. We want certainty, don't we? We want to know the outcome. God, let me know, let me know, let me know. But have you ever watched the movie? Imagine you watch the movie or even like the basketball championships and you already know what the hell's going to happen. Like nobody would watch it. It would be so boring, right? You already know
Exactly.
what's going to happen. The Lakers are going to win again. And this is going to be like, nobody would watch it. And so life is kind of like a movie. And when I look back on my life, I see that so much of life cannot be understood going forward. So much of life only starts sense when you look back, and then you start piecing all the parts of your life together and you realize why you had to go through that dark night, why you had to go through that heartbreak, why you had to go through that dis-ease, why you almost had to die, why you had to be betrayed by your mom or your dad or your ex, why you had to, and then you start piecing it, why you had to go to prison, and you realize all of that was the divine cosmic chef preparing me, preparing me with different ingredients, a little divorce here, a little heartbreak here, let's put a little sprinkling of, a breakup here, a little bankruptcy here, a little prison here, a little betrayal here. And all of that's part of the spice and ingredients to prepare me, to prepare us to be served to the world. And so we all want the certainty, like, I want to know, I want to know, I want to know. But when I look back on my life at 18, 19, 17, 18, 19 years old, if I knew everything that was going to happen in my life, I realized I would never have taken the step and come to America because it was too damn hard. There were times when I came and I was homeless and I had no place to stay and literally sleeping on park benches and sleeping on friends' couches. And I had $2 in the bank account and, having, cleaning floors and being betrayed by my friends and having no idea. I would never have taken the step. And I think this is many times why why God doesn't show us the entire path, because we wouldn't take the step and we would not have to practice having faith. It would be too easy. It would not require any faith. And so, yeah, there's been many moments, when so many moments. I mean, so many miraculous moments. I remember when years ago, I thought I met the woman I was going to be with for the rest of my life. I thought there were all these signs, all the signs, the universe, the stars, the astrologer, all of these signs. It's like, oh, it's a sign. And I was so sure. And long story short, at a few months, she wasn't ready. And I was heartbroken for a moment and devastated. And I was like, God, why did you do me like this, man? I opened my heart and I give everything
Oh,
and I went all in and God, you screwed me over. And it was one of those moments where I threw my hands up and I said, when what you think isn't, right?
uh-huh,
It doesn't, it's just a mind trip. Like I was so sure something was, but it's not. I remember feeling so heartbroken in that moment. And I remember kind of giving up on love. I'm like, maybe love isn't for me. I was like, fine, this lifetime, everyone has their own thing. I'm done.
uh-huh.
And then I heard a voice months later that said, go to Brazil. The hell am I gonna do, girl? I have no idea, girl. This is crazy. Go.
Yeah.
Long story short, I end up going to Brazil, end up meeting my wife in the first 3 days of my journey. The woman that was to become my wife, by the way,
Mhm.
in the most random, unexpected, strange, unusual way that I could not have planned. And then I see now, I see why I had to move here. And I was living in LA, had to move to Phoenix, had to move to Miami, had to go through this heartbreak, so that it's almost as though so that God could put me in the position geographically, the position mentally, and break my heart to the point where my heart was actually open enough
Mhm.
to receive the purity and the realness and the beauty of a woman such as my wife that maybe I would not have been open to because I thought the woman I was supposed to be was going to be like this. But it's like, this was what was truly aligned for me. And it's
Mhm.
right for me, but I couldn't see it because my mind was my ego was conditioned.
Mhm.
And so sometimes I found that not getting what you want is grace. Not getting what you thought you wanted is a blessing.
Such a blessing.
Is a blessing. And so sometimes when things don't happen according to plan, we judge it, right? Oh, this is bad. This is good. Instead of judging, I've learned step back, don't even assign a meaning to it, and just step back and observe. And instead of making it mean something, just be curious. Huh.
Yes.
I wonder what this versus it means this, it means that. I wonder what this could mean. I wonder what more amazing thing that God is seeking, the universe is seeking to do in my life right now. I wonder how good God is seeking, life is seeking to bring into my life in this moment. And so even if you don't understand why something is happening, step back and observe and get curious. And what I found is life, if you're open, will show you, it will reveal itself to you. And often it will be what you cannot expect and what you could not imagine. And so, in many ways, there have been many moments of surrender, and it's
Yeah.
been a blessing. Been a blessing.
Beautiful story about your wife and how you were just called to go to Brazil. I love that. It's so magical. And I also think too, like you mentioned, you're able to connect the dots looking backwards and you know that there's always a higher power that's working for your good. And so I felt like
Yeah.
for me that made it easier for me to surrender because I know that everything is always lining up in my favor. And so, for anyone listening to this, it is so important to just have so much trust, so much faith, and so much belief that you're being divinely guided to whatever you're supposed to do in the moment. And so, I'd love to do a this or that challenge for the audience
Cool.
to get to know you a little better. So, are you ready?
Let's
Okay.
go.
Coffee or tea?
None of those.
Really?
Matcha.
Oh, okay. I love that. Okay. Sunrise or sunset?
Wow. Let's go with sunset.
Okay. Meditation or journaling?
Meditation.
I think I know what you're gonna say for this one, but plan everything or go with the flow.
Go with the flow.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Giving or receiving?
Ooh. I just have to say that it's much easier for me to give, and I'm learning how to receive.
I think I'm definitely with you there. It's been a challenge.
In a challenge.
Gratitude gratitude or forgiveness?
Wow. Great. Let's go with gratitude.
Mm. We talked a lot about this during this episode, but manifestation or surrender?
Surrender is the key to manifestation.
Yes. Amen to that. And I know that you have a retreat coming up. It's called Boundless Bliss Bali Experience. So, can you share a little bit more with my audience what that is and what they could experience?
Yeah, look, for the last 15 years, I have facilitated what I think is perhaps the most transformational retreat in the world.
Mm.
It's for 20 plus years, I've been transforming people's lives in very unique ways. And 15 years ago, I created a process called Boundless Bliss, the Bali Breakthrough Experience. It's 12 days, an immersion, experiential seminar training in Bali. And it's truly life changing. I've done 24 journeys in the last 15 years. In 2024, I thought it would be my final one, and I didn't do any in 2025. And so 2026, I was guided to bring it back. When I first created these journeys in Bali, um, I was told that there were leaders and visionaries in the world that were meant to impact humanity, that were meant to shift cultures, that were meant to transform industries, that were meant to, elevate communities, leaders. And I was told that when they heard about the Boundless Bliss Bali journey, they would have a connection, that they would feel a calling, they would feel a knowing that this was a part of their destiny. And so over the last 15 years, we've had hundreds of people go on this journey, billionaires, celebrities, entrepreneurs, salespeople, mothers, you name it. And, and so I would say that if you're someone and you feel that you've been put on the planet for a purpose bigger than yourself, and you know it, and you feel as though you're ready to heal and transform, and you're tired of just reading more books and gathering more information, because I really feel information by itself is not enough. You have to go through a transformational process. And what the journey does is, over the course of 12 days, I take people through a very, very, very unique, multidimensional process that is methodically and systematically designed to help you identify those core hidden blocks that keep you from manifesting that next level and being your best self. A process that is designed to help you get to the root of where you're stuck so that you can truly heal those core wounds and release and clear them mentally, emotionally, energetically, even karmically. A process that is designed to help you release yourself from the patterns of your conditioning, that we all have conditioning. What I found was most people will not fulfill, let me repeat, most people will not fulfill their potential in this lifetime. Most, because we're conditioned and our conditioning
Mhm.
stops. And so what the process is really designed to do is uncondition you in a really profound way. And so I think it's the deepest unconditioning process around. And then it's designed to help reconnect you with those parts of yourself, your power, your curiosity, your innocence, that you may have lost, and to activate that energy inside of you so that you can really connect with your mission and your vision and your purpose, and catapult you forward in living your true soul's destiny again. And so it's a truly life-changing journey. I would say, if you're listening and you feel called, you feel a connection, you'll feel it, you'll know, depending on when you listen to this, likely this will be my final journey of doing the Boundless Bliss Bali. The next one is December the 5th through the 16th. The 5th through the 16th, people can go to www.boundlessblissbali.com. That's boundlessblissbali.com. You can watch the video, you can read the website, and you can apply. There's an application process. We really screen people. We take maximum of 18 people, sometimes 16, sometimes 18, sometimes 15. But we really screen people so that everyone that comes on the journey into this unique process, kind of like a soul surgery, is feels a calling, is destined, and is highly committed. So if you're ready to transform your life in such a profound way and experience breakthroughs and miracles, www.boundlessblissbali.com.
Wow, that sounds so transformational. And I love how it's such a small, curated space. So everyone there really does feel a calling to their purpose. And that sounds very magical. So we'll definitely link that in the show notes. And then also, for people listening to this, where can they find and connect with you?
Sure. Instagram, Kute Blackson, Facebook, Kute Love Now, TikTok, Kute Blackson, my main website, Kute Blackson, Kute, KuteBlackson.com. Say hi, send me a DM, say hello, let me know you saw me on the podcast, Light Up Your Life. What else? My book, You Are the One and the Magic of Surrender, and my podcast, Soul Talk.
I love that. I will definitely have all of this linked in the show notes. And for all of you listening to this, we are sending you so much love and light.